Hello fellow Blossom enjoyers, Hargos here, and I have an update to the 11.1 Undermine Raid build guide for Blossom, big Blossom builds. Blizzard has been cooking on PTR updates for Flameshaper, which are going to have a direct impact to Emerald Blossom, and the builds I recommend, so I'm coming out with this video where most of the changes will be in Flameshaper and the Preservation Tree. No changes to Evoker Tree, but I will also be going through the full build. For those interested in jumping to specific discussions, the description will have chapters below. I will also cover a burst rotation that I will be using going forward, revolving around the new talents, and then also stasis. And then there's also an interesting idea for an Echo Ouroboros build now with the changes. Now I don't plan on using this, but we'll cover just the general concept on how that could be done. So let's jump into those PTR updates. Okay, so I have two tabs here I wanted to discuss. This will have the majority of the Flameshaper changes. So we have a new talent, Fulminous War, which is in the Flameshaper tree. Fire Breath and Dream Breath deal their damage and healing in 20% less time. So this should improve our Consumed Flame healing. So that's in that tree. Traveling Flame has been redesigned. No longer increases Dream Breath or Fire Breath duration and spreads. Instead, reduces the cooldown of Fire Breath and Dream Breath by 5 seconds. I think it's 6 seconds now in the PTR. So this is what is really enabling this new build that I recommend going forward. Where previously it would just spread your Dream Breath and you kind of have to track on who that would jump to. Now this is just a output increase so we can cast Dream Breath and Fire Breath more often. Engulf cooldown is now reduced by haste, and then it is also reduced down here to a base of 27 seconds instead of 30. So my engulf is every 24 seconds now. Instead of previously it was 30, so you'll be able to cast engulfed more and more often than you would previously. Titanic Precision no longer references reversion critically striking for preservation, as it cannot critically heal on application. We didn't typically use this anyways, as Living Flame had a higher chance of critically striking or giving those essence bursts than reversion anyways, so it's not a huge impact. Conduit of Flame critical strike chances have increased to 15%, was 10%, so we'll have more essence bursts since we'll have a higher critical strike chance with those Living Flames each time we cast those. Expanded Lungs is now a choice talent against Enkindle, and which in Kindle they were increasing it to 25%. Now it's 20, so I don't recommend using Enkindle going forward, so you'll see that in my recommended talents. I think the increase of the Dream Breath healing of 30% is going to be a much improvement for your healing with your Consumed Flame and Engulf compared to Enkindle going forward. And so this is what I was mentioning. Their Expanded Lungs increases the damage or healing over time of Fire Breath and Dream Breath by 30% instead of the 25%. So I'll be switching to this talent for Flameshaper, just enhancing your Consumed Flame. Just above that, so we have Consumed Flame now consumes 2 seconds, was 4, but they also increased the amount of healing accordingly, so you should heal about the same, but it'll consume less of that Dream Breath, which will be nice. Okay, no other changes there that impact us. Now this is actually a small change, but I did want to mention it because we will be talking about the Echo Ouroboros build. Emerald Blossom may no longer be echoed. Okay, so this will allow us to stack Ouroboros, increasing in the next Emerald Blossom we use. I think it's, we'll go over it, but I think it's 20 or 25% each time we cast an Echo. So we could continue to stack this and have a massive Emerald Blossom. Instead of having a ton of Emerald Blossom, we just have one strong one. There's some pros and cons to that, and which we'll discuss when we get to that build. But they did roll this out recently, and I think that's interesting for us going forward. Okay, So those are the changes. So let's go over the recommended build. I will start in the Evoker tree. No changes here from my previous video. But again, I will point out the important talents that we will need as an Emerald Blossom Enjoyer. We have Bountiful Bloom, which Emerald Blossom heals 2 additional allies, so it's 5 instead of 3. Panacea, Emerald Blossom Verdant Embrace instantly heal you for a certain amount when it's cast, so you'll be maintaining your mastery as a Preservation Evoker fairly easily with this skill or talent. Of course, any increase to your healing you can choose from. Source of Magic, you can put this on another healer, so you can provide the mana as you use your empowerment skills. And if you do have another Evoker in your group, make sure they put this on you. This will, as a Blossom player, will make it so you will likely not run out of mana as long as you have this on you. Leaping Flame is one of the most important ones because Fire Breath per empowerment level will increase the amount of living flames you cast next time you cast Living Flame. So it's 1 additional target per empowerment level Fire Breath, so this will allow us to get our Essence Bursts more often. Casting Emerald Blossom with Ancient Flame or Verdant Embrace will reduce cast time of your next Living Flame by 40%. So this is a very fast cast with this skill, because you're going to be casting Emerald Blossoms all the time, Verdant Embrace all the time. So that's pretty much a constant 40% reduced cast time on Living Flame whenever you need it, for wanting an Essence Burst or just general single target healing, because Living Flame is actually a fairly strong spell whenever you want to use it. Okay, let's move on to Flame Shapers. So there's a number of changes here. So of course we have our standard Engulf, which is a nice heal, increased when you have hots on whoever you're healing. Now, Flame Siphon. So this is why I mentioned it was 6 seconds in the PTR right now. So Engulf reduces the cooldown of Fire Breath and Dream Breath by 6 seconds. And you have 2 Engulfs you can cast. So it's 12 seconds if you want to use all of them at once. Okay, I also am moving to Expanded Lungs to increase the healing of Dream Breath, and therefore increase the consumed flame of your Dream Breath. Whenever you engulf someone, it will consume that Dream Breath, 2 seconds of it, and heal everyone around you by that amount. So here's the other new skill or talent. We have Fulminous Roar, Fire Breath, and Dream Breath deal their damage and healing in 20% less time. So you're going to have a lot more burst coming from your Dream Breath. Here is the Conduit Flame increase, so now it's 15%. Living Flame has 1 extra chance to trigger Essence Burst when it critically strikes, so that's why we're going to be casting tons of Living Flames so we can get those Essence Bursts for our Blossoms. And the more we cast Blossoms, the more we'll heal. Okay, and so here's the main change I recommend for Preservation. So previously I was suggesting Font of Magic and Power Nexus. So that was mainly looking for that Power Nexus, increasing your maximum essence to 6. That way I could have 3 Emerald Blossoms within stasis, no problems. All I needed was 1 Essence Burst. I cast all 3. I could have as many of those up as I want. Instead of having 5 where I could only cast 1, I would have to wait for Essence Regeneration and cast another one. But with these changes and going away from Enkindle and moving towards Expanded Lungs, I'm moving away from that and focusing a little more on Engulf. And that being said, I've moved these talent points into flow state. So empowerment spells cause time to flow 10% faster for you, increasing movement speed, cooldown recharge rate, and cast speed. And this lasts for 10 seconds. And you should be casting a empowerment spell about every 10 seconds, honestly. So, especially in any burst window, you should have this up at all times. So that's going to improve your cast speed, your cooldown recharge rate. Now, the only concern I have here, especially early on the season, is how is this going to work with my mana sustain. So again, make sure you have Source of Magic on yourself. Otherwise, you might have to have a little bit more mana management during the raid. Everything else stays the same. Of course, for Emerald Blossoms, you want to have Fluttering Seedlings, because every time you do, you have 2 Fluttering Seedlings come out, and then each of those have a 30% chance to turn into another Emerald Blossom with Field of Dreams. No changes for Call of Ysera. This will increase the healing of your Dream Breath whenever you Vern Embrace, so you want to make sure you use Vern Embrace every time before you cast Dream Breath. Since we're not echoing, you can use Vern Embrace on yourself, so you're not traveling. If someone really needs healing, you can always Vern Embrace someone else. Lifegiver's Flame, so Fire Breath actually will heal allies. Your Fire Breath does quite a bit of damage, but if it's only a single target fight, it's not going to be as much if it's a multi-target fight or a council fight. In council fights, this actually is a very nice heal to have. Renewing Breath, Dream Breath healing is increased by 30%, and then Cycle of Life. Okay, so every 3 Emerald Blossom leaves behind a tiny sprout, which gathers 10% of your healing. We'll see how often I can have this up now that I'm moving away from Power Nexus. I still anticipate having this up most of the time, and I also want to make sure that I have this up whenever I go into my burst window for increased healing. So I'll probably track it a little bit more than I used to. And of course we have our big cooldowns. We have Dream Flight, which is uncapped AoE in our path. We have our Rewind, which will rewind 33% of the damage, and taken by allies in the last 5 seconds. Fantastic heal. And then also Stasis. So we're going to be, which will store 3 helpful spells that you cast. And I'll go through what this burst rotation looks like with Stasis that I recommend. And so we're going to be rotating between Dreamflight, Rewind, and Stasis for our big heals. Titan's Gift I didn't cover. Essence Burst increase the effectiveness in your Essence spells, which will be Blossom, by 25%. Resonating Sphere, so whenever you cast Temporal Anomaly, this will apply Echoes, and then we'll cast Living Flame off that. So we'll get more and more Essence Burst from Resonating Sphere, switching between Resonating Sphere and Fire Breath. Okay, so that goes through the updates to the talent build. And so next I wanted to go through what I plan to use for a burst rotation. So I'll go through kind of what this will look like as it starts up, and then you'll see how quickly we can put out healing with this new Flame Shaper talents that we've gained in the PTR. Okay, so I always start with Temporal Anomaly. Cast Living Flame off that, and then I'll have Essence Burst, cast that. Fire Breath on an enemy, of course. Living Flame, get some more Essence Burst. And now I'm going to go into the burst window, so Vern Embrace, Stasis, Living Flame, or Dream Breath, and then I'll cast Engulf twice. So you have that twice. Okay, and then I'll cast Fire Breath again to get that back on cooldown. Looks like Dream Breath will be back up. Cast it. And then it's going to be back up really quick again, so we'll have another burst of Emerald Blossoms very quickly. So I took a little bit of time trying to explain that as I went. So you'll be going a little bit faster as you'll be doing that. So what you can do is do that stasis build up, release it right away if you want. You'll probably go directly into Fire Breath again and Dream Breath again, and so you'll be able to do that very quickly, or you can wait a minute for Fire Breath and Dream Breath to come back up again, use it, and then use your stasis, and then you'll get them up within a few seconds after that. So you could do it one of 2 ways. You can do it really quick in a matter of 10-15 seconds, or you can kind of elongate it to 30 seconds, but still a very strong burst however you want to do it. I did mention that I wanted to go through what an Echo build may look like. And so, as I mentioned, Blossoms will no longer consume your Echoes. So Ouroboros here, I was wrong earlier, it's actually 30% per Echo. So what you could do here, instead of using Lifegiver's Flame, you could move into your Ouroboros. And so, changing that talent, you could apply your Echoes using non-essence bursts essence that you have available. So now my Ouroboros is at 90% stronger. It's at 120, and this doesn't go away. So you could hold on to this as long as you want. And now, the only problem is whenever you wanted to use a temporal anomaly going to Living Flame, it will consume that. The essences you just built up. I'd rather use these for Dream Breath, but this almost guarantees you to Essence Burst. I think the Echoes might have run out of time, and I only have 5 targets here, so... but now my Emerald Blossom will be 120% more effective. So they're hitting for 1.5 million-ish. So you could move towards a build like this. The only thing is your cycle of life windows are going to be much smaller. You're not going to be, ramping up for tons of Ever Blossoms, since you won't be using any of your non-essence burst for it. I think it's going to be a little more clunky for myself. I think I'd rather not be weaving between them. Now, if you feel confident in doing so, more power to you. But it's not something I'm going to try myself, but I think it could be an interesting way for you to build in Echo and Emerald Blossom essence abilities. Okay. Well, that's it for me, folks. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.